we lived at Oak Grove, and we couldn't go to the movie unless our chores was done. I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and Daddy was police chief, and you done what he said. So we couldn't, if the chores wasn't done, you couldn't go. We had to shuck corn and shell peas and get wood. Then we moved to town on 10th Street. Same way. We couldn't, we could go to town if our chores was done. So we would go uptown, and if Daddy wasn't around, he was busy, one of his deputies named Howard Rogers, he would loan us enough money to go to the movie, and then Daddy would pay. We could get in for $1 and buy a bag of popcorn and a drink for $1. And we just enjoyed it. Everybody was there at the theater. Oh, like Jimmy said, we didn't have TVs. First TV we got was black and white. Didn't have a rotary, we had an antenna, and somebody would have to stand inside the house, and somebody would go outside, one of my brothers, and turn that antenna by hand till it got to where you could see the station. Not many people know what my name is. Everybody calls me Gus, but it's a nickname. When I was a little fella, my daddy carried me to the movie. The name of the movie was My Pal Gus. And it was about a man and his son. And his son's name was Gus. And ever since that, after that, he started calling me Gus, and everybody calls me Gus. We would go to the movie, and then we'd stay for the late show, the scary movie. Well, we'd have to walk home, and it'd be 12:30, 1 o'clock. But we had to pass by the funeral home. And when we got close to the funeral home, we were scared. We took off running like something was going to get us. Linda moved here in '64. So we was dating, we'd go to the movies. I'll tell you a funny story about, she worked telephone company, she was operator. I worked construction back then. So one night, she wanted to go to the scary movie. Horror movie is what it was. So 12 o'clock, the first scene, everybody was in there. Linda was sitting beside of me. The first scene, this guy grabbed this young girl's finger and cut a finger off. And I looked around, Linda was gone. She went out that door, full trot. So I got up, better go see about her. And I seen Mr. Howard Rogers, he was laughing. He said, Gus, she went that way. Wide open, she was outside. We didn't get to see the rest of the movie.
Well, it started shortly after I moved here in 1964. I moved here to live with my sister, and I kept noticing this Danley's truck circling the block, and I could tell he wasn't going anywhere. He was going right back that direction. So I asked my sister Mamie, I said, who is that on that panel truck from Danley's Furniture? She said, oh, that's Gus Griffin. Said his daddy's chief of police here. Said, he's a good boy. Said, that's a good family. So eventually he stopped. And so, there wasn't a whole lot of places to go except to the beach or to the theater. So we spent our time at one or the other. But it was, we loved the theater, and all of our friends would get together down there. And I remember George, his brother, working at the window and taking tickets. And I remember the lady that, Miss Graves, was that?
Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia
Yes,
Graves.
Molly Henderson worked up there too, selling tickets.
And it was just, I remember walking into the front door and then going around through the little hallway, and it's just, just good memories. The one that he was talking about earlier was, I think, was 1,000 Maniacs. And he was working down south, Fort Lauderdale, I think, and we had made plans, Gus and I and some of our friends that was around our age, was going to go to the late night show, and that's what was playing. And I got in there, and I'm a little farm girl. I was overprotected, and my daddy had 10 kids, and it was like, I didn't know anything about horror movies, and I went to the movies, but I never saw any horror movies. And so when that movie started, they were rerouting traffic down to this house, this big old place on the river, it seems like. And one of the young men there befriended this girl, one of the girls that was detoured there, and they walked down to the riverside, and he said, well, she said, what do y'all do for fun around here, or entertainment? And he said, well, let me have your hand and I'll show you. So she gave him her hand, and he took a pocket knife out and he started sawing her finger off. That was it. I was gone. I was out of there. I never have been into anything horror. But that's one of my vivid memories. And then another time, me and 4 or 5 of my girlfriends were in there watching a movie, and I don't remember what was on. And I don't know if she was laughing or screaming. Her name now is Pauline Pendarvis. And she jumped so high, she landed way out in front of the seat that she was sitting in. But I don't know if she was scared or if it was just she was laughing so hard. But that's one of my memories. I remember that. But just the camaraderie and looking forward to going to the movies at a certain time, and it was the good old days.
After the movies was over, people would hang around the front of the theater there and just socialize, because back then our fast food was, I think we had Sally's Drive-In maybe, and it was way out the other side of Highland View, and they just wasn't anything open that time of night, but they'd hang around the front of the theater out there talking, and it was, I remember the first girl I was kind of sweet on, that's where we met, was at the theater. And I think we was in the 7th grade or whatever, but I'm sure there was a lot of that. Matter of fact, I remember some couples that later on got married. Bob Jackson, his wife was one of them, they met at the theater, and they would court each other in the theater, and then they'd go home. So there was a lot of, that's where the dating took place. It was at the theater. They'd meet there and then spend a little time together, and then they'd go home. So there was some of that in there too. So,
we had a friend, remember Big Gene Raphael?
oh yeah.
He lost his billfold. I believe it was Mr. Gene. He was older than us. He lost it in years and years. When they was tearing that old theater out, they found that billfold in the wall. Belonged to Mr. Gene. You remember that?
Yeah. There was one time too, I remember on a Sunday, this one like got me killed. The delivery truck that was bringing the film was about 2 or 3 hours late. Don't know why, but I'm down there on the end of the corner waiting for the film to show up for the movies to the start of the movies on Sunday at that phone booth waiting, and it was late, and people was down there at the theater. They wouldn't let them in because they didn't have the movie yet, and people was down there waiting to get in, and they was hollering, whoa, carrying on, and somebody come down there and got on to me about what's going on with the movie and all that stuff. Anyway, when the truck got there, I remember running back up there as fast as I could, get this thing in there because they're going to kill me. But that's the way the movies was, that's the way we got them delivered back then, was there at that phone booth every Sunday, about 1 o'clock or so, something like that. And they would run it, I think, like a half a week or a week, and then they'd change it, but it was just repeated. I'd like to have some of those old banners and all that was in there. It'd be worth a lot of money now, because some of those movies wound up being pretty famous. And but it was that was a social hub of our little world back then. So, but a lot of friendships, a lot of popcorn. It was just a fun place to be.
Wasn't there a department store by the theater? And
Olin's department store. Yeah,
there was a window going out, come into the theater
on the back side, to the bathroom. Yeah,
and you could sneak into the theater through the window.
If you could climb the pipe and get in the bathroom.
Let him in.
He'd open the window for him.
He'd open the window.
Yeah, I hope Aaron Cooley ain't listening.
If you could climb up that pipe.
Yeah. On the back side of that theater, you can still see where that pipe, it's either there or was, but it was a pretty good climb. But that's, if you wanted to sneak in, that's the way you had to go.
We would go with the group. If you didn't go with the group, you met the group down there. You know how it was. Hey, we're going to the theater. You can be down there at 6 o'clock, you know. We'll see you down there. But it was a very important part of the youth growing up here. I have very fond memories of it. And it's just, I think it would be something that would give our youth something to do, because there's just not a whole lot to do here. You know, we don't have the skating rink like we used to have. We don't have Faye's Drive-In. We don't have the little drugstores with the fountains, soda fountains. We don't have anything like that, and sometimes I feel so sad for our youth because they don't have that. They have to get out and just create something instead of having something there that they can meet up and they can laugh and, you know, have the camaraderie that we had, build friendships, relationships, create memories that'll last forever. But I think it would be wonderful if that theater was restored. I think it would just be great for not only us, but the surrounding areas too.